Okay, everybody. So what we're going to be doing today is making it so whenever we spawn new characters in, we're actually spawning new characters. We're making new players, but we're also making new characters that can be modified to do different things. So first thing we probably ought to do is let's go ahead and make those new characters. So to do that, let's go into our content drawer right here. I'm already on the third person folder right here. We're going to go into the blueprints, and here's our BP third person character. Now we're going to use our template character here as our parent class. Now what that means is if I code something onto my third person character, it'll filter down to all the other child classes as well. And the way this works, or the reason this works so well, is that most every character that we play as will have some basic abilities. They can walk, they can jump, they can move around based on controllers that the players are holding on to. And then we might have some small differentiation. So let's say, for instance, right here, we're going to right click on this character. We're going to go up here and create child blueprint class. Now what we're going to do is do BP. Okay, we're going to still leave it as BP, and we're going to call this yellow guy. Okay, now yellow guy is a child of the third person character. So what that means is if I go in here and I make any changes to my character, it won't affect the third person character. It'll only affect this character. So that means I can change its mesh. Let's see, I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to change it to Manny Simple. And then I'm going to make it so, since this is kind of going to be our first player and I know he's supposed to be yellow, what I'm going to do is find this material instance right here on this element 0. And I'm going to find where that's at. So it looks like that's right here under my materials and the regular Manny materials. Okay, let's just make a copy just so we're safe though. All right, duplicate, and we're going to call this one yellow. Oops, no slashes. Okay, and we open that up, and we're going to give the paint tint for yellow. Cool. And let's go back to our yellow guy. We're going to change that up. We got Manny yellow. There we go. And then let's make another one here. We're going to go back to our third person character, blueprint. Just going to make a few different ones here real quick. Duplicate. Oh, sorry. I don't want to duplicate it. I want to make a child. Make sure you do that as you go in here. Delete that one. Yep. Let's go back in. Want to make sure we're creating a child blueprint class. Okay, and this one, this will be Red Lady, and we'll keep that as a Quinn. Go in here, and this one is a Quinn, so let's duplicate that, and we're going to make that Quinn red. Okay, open that one up, paint tint, put the red on there. That'll look cool. All right. And just save that. And we'll get rid of it. Let's add it into, there we go. There's a red version of Quinn. And get rid of those. Let's go back into our content drawer here. Third person. And of course, this is where you guys can start adding in different meshes. You can start changing up a lot of the materials on those characters. Kind of like what I'm doing here. I want to make sure we get 4 that we get to work with. Okay. Third person character. This is going to be green guy. Okay. And this is going to be a Manny. There we go. And let's see. Let's go back to this one. Let's make a duplicate of this one. Because you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it green, right? Let's keep it as Manny green. There we go. We'll go into it, change the tint. And then we're going to have a blue lady. All right. See, that looks good. Let's go ahead and save it. Set the green guy. There we go. Compile that. And last one. I'm going to go back to our third person blueprint. And we're going to make one more child here. BP. And we'll do Bluebell. Why not? Just change it up a little bit. All right. And we're going to change hers. So we'll do a duplicate of the red. And we'll do blue. And we'll just change tint again. And making that palette over here really does help make those things go real quick. You've already decided what you're going to use for the color. Let's change that one back over. Blue. Okay, cool. And we have our 4 characters ready to go. Different meshes, different colors on each. And we're going to attribute those to the different first, second, third, and fourth players that we're going to have. So we're going to be making a few different things. Mostly what's going to be happening with these is we're going to, well, first off, we need to be in our couch co-op space, and it's going to be a lot of work with our game mode and our player controller. Okay, so let's go ahead and open those up. Let's get the player controller as well. Probably not going to need the characters directly for a little while. So let's just work with our game mode and our player controller. So the way this is going to work is that our game mode is going to need to keep track of what characters our players are able to spawn as. And the reason for that is our controller it just needs to know what it's going to spawn. It doesn't really usually like to have a bunch of different options of what it's going to spawn, because it needs to just control a character. That's why we spawn individual controllers for individual players. So what we're going to do is have the game mode hold on to all those different types of characters, and then we're going to say, hey, controller, spawn this character. Okay, just kind of give you a breakdown of how this is going to work. Okay, so we're going to want to set up a few things inside the game mode and inside of the player controller. One of those things is the player index, because we can find these things afterwards. We're doing some extra work, but we could also just assign them as they come up. So we want to in the player controller, we're going to go to variables down here, and we're going to set up player index. That just needs to be an integer. Okay, and then we're also going to need that over here on our game mode side, but I think it might actually be good to get it a little bit later when we actually are casting to our player controller, and then we can make that variable from there. One thing we'll need on the game mode side, though, is we're going to need something that increments on the game mode side and then applies that to the player index on the player controller. So I'm going to call that next player index. Okay, and that just needs to be an integer, so that was easy. Let's go and start building some of these pieces on. So we're really going to be changing a lot of what we see here. We're going to be removing the default pawn class here. In fact, I might just go ahead and connect this up. So the way for this to work is that we're going to have the player controller still activate, you know, with the join game and everything, right? But we're going to end up changing the restart down here into something else. Okay, we're going to be actually making this possess something. So let's go back over here to our game mode, and we have our next player index. We're going to do something similar to like our HUD listening to our character being started. In the game mode, that's going to be event on post login. So that means the character's been started. Now this is actually something we can use in multiplayer online as well, but use it for local multiplayer as well. So let's see, we're going to go from here. We're going to cast to PC. That's your controller. And it's going to be coming from this new player right here. Excuse me. From here, we are going to want to get the player index. So let's see, let's pull off of this, get player index. Okay, that's a variable that we have right there. Okay. And actually, we're going to be setting it. No, my bad. We're not going to be getting it. I'm going to do set player index. Okay. And we're going to connect that up right there. And let's see. So our next player index, that's the thing that's going to be telling this what it needs to do. And so this is going to increment. And then when we come back around, it's going to tell some of the pieces on the player controller what it needs to do. So from here, we're going to add just one onto that. There's one. And we're going to update the next player index. So right after we do this, we're going to, whoops, sorry, not do that. We're going to do this. There we go. So when this comes back around, we're going to cast to the PC again, and we're going to increment this index so we can keep all of this connected between the game mode and the player controller. Okay, so from here, we're going to make a new custom event. This custom event is going to be called, let's see, let's make it first. And this one's going to be called request spawn. Okay, so this is going to be a request that we send from the player controller to the game mode. Say, hey, could you please spawn this? Okay, and on this custom event, we also want to pull some other information from the player controller. So we're going to go over here to the input side right here on the custom event, and we're going to make one for player index. Okay, and that one just needs to be set up as an integer. Let me go ahead and pull this out here. There we go. That's an integer, and then we're going to need one more for controller ID. That's just, you know, the name of the controller, basically. So for this one, it's going to be coming from our controller itself. So PC_CC. There we go. Object reference. That'll work. Okay, so whenever the player controller calls this, they'll need to supply this information as well. So from here, we're going to hook this up to a switch. And typically, whenever we're just going to have to run through a bunch of different conditions, really. So previously, we would have to do branch after branch and load them up. So they would say like, oh, if this fails, then do this. If this fails, do this. Another way to do this is do a switch on int. And what that looks like is this right here. We're going to say like, okay, depending on what the player index is, we are going to spawn something. If it's player 0, the index is 0, then we're going to spawn one character. If the index is 1, we're going to spawn a different character. If it's 2, we're going to spawn a different character. So what this effectively does is makes you spawn in a particular character, but they're all different characters. Okay, so I'm going to add one more pin in there, and we're going to use the controller ID here in just a little bit. But from here, it's basically just checking this. It's just checking the player index and then matching it up with this. So we don't have to do just a bunch of branches over and over and over again. That should save us, a lot of headache. So from here, instead of restarting a character, we're going to spawn a character. We're going to spawn actor of class. Okay. And we're going to choose which one we want to spawn. So we're going to do, let's see, first one is yellow guy. So let's type in yellow. There's a BP yellow guy. Oh, and we have a transform too. So I'm going to have to add that in here in just a second. After that, we have to possess this character. So let's see here. Possess, that's it right there. That's what we want for the pawn. Okay. And then what we're going to do is take the return value right here, and that's going to go into the pawn. And then the target is this controller ID right here. Okay. So we're going to feed that in there. And we're going to do this over and over and over again for all of our different characters. So you might want to just kind of give yourself some space so you can make this. It's still going to be a little bit larger part of a blueprint than what we've done in the past, but this is going to make it a lot easier, not having to go through so many branches and everything. One more thing we're going to need so we can make this actually work is we do need a spawn transform here. So this is our event begin play, so we want to go ahead and get something that's going to take care of saying where we're going to actually spawn from. So right here, we're not going to restart a player anymore. And actually, this will make it so you have to press start to even bring in the first player. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to put the player start. We're going to find that player start. Yeah, I know we've got an issue right now because we just kind of left that hanging. We're going to go back to our level. We have this player start right here. Okay. That'll work. And we're going to find that player start. And so if you put multiple in the level, you can actually spawn at different spaces in different places. But let's go back into, oops, sorry, game mode. And we're here at the end of add to viewport. Then we're going to get all actors of class. Okay. And from there, we can say like, oh, we're just going to get player start. Now, since we're only using one player start, it's actually kind of easy. We don't have to do anything crazy. From right here, we're going to drag off of the array, get copy is what we want. And that's just going to get the very first player start that we get a hold of. And there's only one in the level, so this works out just fine. If you wanted to be able to grab several all at once, then we'd have to feed this into an array, and then you randomly choose from that within a few numbers, depending on how many player starts you have. But that might be something we'll add in a little bit later. From here, we want to get the root component of the, I gotta get that message out of the way, of the player start. Let's see. Actually, we'd probably want to just get the world location. I think that would probably give us the same thing. Get world location. Take that off. Calibration. I'm going to say that one. Yep, that gives us what we want. Okay, now this is a vector. So I'm going to promote that to a variable. I'm going to call that spawn point. Okay, and we're going to make that get set right there so we can use that all the way over here. And we can just say spawn point. We're going to drag that in, get that. We don't care about spawn transform or the rotation of the scale, so just run that right in there. Okay, now if we compile this, everything works just fine. And I may even speed this up a little bit just to kind of get past everything. But basically what I'm going to do is take these things right here. I'm going to highlight them, hit Control D, drag it down. And I'm going to connect up this piece right here to the spawn location. I'm going to change this to the next person in the group. So that should be the green. Is it green guy? Okay. Yep, green guy. And then I need to hook it up to our first index right there. And then I need to run this line over here to this one. So I'll probably just speed this up a little bit so you guys can take care of this on your own. I'm just going to add in the other two characters here real quick. Okay, now one thing I did do wrong is that, yeah, I gotta get that one hooked up, is that I did put some people out of order. So the way the order should be is yellow guy, next player should be red, so that's red lady, and then we have the green guy down in the bottom left corner, that's our third player, and then finally we have our bluebell, our last blue character down in the bottom right corner. That's why I'm trying to keep everybody in mind. Okay, and we have everything ready to go there. Okay, let's go over to our player controller. Okay, and one thing we'll need to do on our player controller is we'll need to get a reference to our game mode so we can use it over and over again. So right off of the first part here, off the event begin play, we have add map context, or add mapping context. We're going to cast, touch typing there, cast to the GMCC, that's our game mode. I'm going to pull off this, get game mode. There we go. And then we want to set this reference right here so we can use it a little bit later. Promote to variable. Okay. And I really want to call that something else. I'm going to call this game mode ref. So I know that's just a reference that we're working with. And then we'll need a couple other things that we're going to be needing at this point. So instead of doing restart player, like what we have here, we're going to, this is where we had join game, we're going to do the request spawn like we just set up over here. This is the request spawn right there. Okay. And what we're going to do is, as long as it's not valid, just like before, we're going to drag off of that and we're going to do request spawn. I might actually be doing this a little bit backwards. Yeah, I am, because I really want to get the game mode reference. And I need to, from that, do request spawn. There we go. All right. And we're going to do is not valid. So like if it's not in the game already, then we can spawn it in. Player index, we got that. Get player index. I'm going to put that right there. Okay. And then we want to, for the controller ID, we're just going to provide a reference to the self, because we're in the controller right now. Go ahead and hit complete. And I think that's all we need. Let's go ahead and try it out. See how we do. Let me start up a few controllers here. And let's just see how it starts. Okay. Let me go ahead and move this out. There we go. That looks a little bit better. And notice the first player is not showing up right now. I'm going to click on the space, hit enter. Hey, there's our yellow guy. All right, cool. I hit enter on the keyboard to do that. Let's try player 1. That's a red guy. Good. That's supposed to be red lady, I think. I can't quite tell because I'm pretty far away. Let's try number 3. It's a green guy. Good. All right, and then let me see if I can get my last one working here. Okay, and yeah, my 4th one's having a little issue because I just turned on the controller. But looks like everything else is doing just fine. And let's see, that should be a Quinn right there. Let's kind of compare. They look kind of different. Yeah, let's turn my character around here. Yep. Yep, I look like different models to me. Okay, cool. So that'll give you different characters. You can add different pieces onto your child characters so they run differently, they jump higher, they can fly, whereas not everything else can. But that'll help differentiate your characters.